Hello,
Okay.
everyone. It's and welcome to Welcome Tech channel. This is the Reloco's official channel. We are greeting Drew today. He got an O1 visa and he lives in Los Angeles. Today we will be speaking about your experience of moving to the US and your background of getting an O1 visa. I think it's gonna be super interesting. So yeah, let's get started. So my first question that I'm having for you today is like, why did you decide, like in general, to move to another country? Because I think you're from Australia originally, right? And why
Yes.
did you choose to apply for an O1 visa?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Australia, and I've been doing music my whole life. And I used to play in a band in Australia, and we toured a bunch. We were probably together for about 8-9 years. But I had started producing and writing a lot for myself and other artists and that kind of thing. And through my old band, we met my now manager who lives in the US. He's from LA. And so he early on started bringing me out for a couple, trips here and there. I think I did like 4 or 5 trips, specifically to work with other people in the music industry in America. And being from Australia has fantastic music, but it's a very small community because it's just, it's a small country population-wise. And so, yeah, I think I just had this kind of, I always talked about moving to America and doing music in Los Angeles since I was a kid. So I started doing these trips. And these trips ended up leading to a small publishing deal, which I signed, which then allowed me to basically get my O1 visa. The reason I went for the O1 visa was because it has a longer, period. It's a 3-year visa, as opposed to the other artist visas. I think there's a P1 or P2, which is more so like a touring visa, and I think it's only valid for 12 months. So I really wanted to get as much as I could out of moving, and so. Yeah, that was basically the reason why. And yeah, I had some really, great experiences working with people in the US, and I just felt like there's just so much more opportunity there. And yeah, I wanted to be where the opportunity was. So that's why.
And you moved to the US like 6 years ago and you had an O1 visa. And what visa are you on right now? Did you change your visa route or not?
No, actually, I'm still on the O1. Actually, I just got approved for my third O1 yesterday. So this is very good timing because I just got my third O1 visa. And I'm actually in Berlin at the moment doing some work, and I ended up renewing my O1 visa here in Berlin, which was a new experience for me because normally I have renewed it in Australia where, they say you should renew it in your home country, but I renewed it here and it was completely easy and smooth and went well. So, yeah.
Great. And haven't you thought of maybe switching to other visa routes? Why are you getting your third O1 visa? Do you think you can get maybe something else, or you're fully content with what you're having?
I'm pretty content. I think, I think it's the best visa for me. I'm a freelancer and I work, I tour, I play shows, but I also produce for myself. I produce for television and I produce music for other people. So I do a bit of everything. And I think being on the O1 visa, specifically I think what my lawyer told me was there's kind of 2 sides. You can go in as more of a freelancer, and you could apply more as kind of working for someone or something like that. Anyway, I applied more as a freelancer because I wanted to have the freedom to work in as many different music fields as I could. So I'm really happy with the visa. It is 3 years, which I think is a good enough time, although it goes by really fast. And the process to apply and get all this stuff it can take months. So I think, I feel like I just renewed my second one and I'm already doing my third. So, yeah. And I was looking into getting a green card, but for me personally, it didn't really make sense. I don't want to be tied to the US for my life mainly because of tax reasons, and I just don't think I'm ready to become a full-time American, so to speak. So the O1 visa is perfect for me.
I see that you're not ready to become full-time American. And your lawyer said that you could work as a freelancer for an O1 visa or have an employer. It's an interesting topic because generally O1 visa demands having an employer. And how come? You do not have an employer in the US, but you still got an O1 visa. How come?
Yeah, exactly. That was a little bit confusing for me as well. I think the way it works, from what I understand, is so my manager in the US is the sponsor and petitioner of my visa. So he is the one that is on all the forms, and basically, what that means is, from what I understand, he's responsible for me in the United States, and so everyone that applies for an O1 has to have some form of petitioner or support. And I'm pretty sure he technically is my employer, through his company. I am working for him, kind of, but it's really confusing because in music, I don't work for him. He actually works for me. And so, yeah, it was a little bit confusing how it's kind of laid out to present that to you. But, my lawyer kind of did most of that work. And from what I remember when I applied probably 4 or 5 months ago for this renewal, normally my first two O1s, I had to provide 2 or 3 years worth of tour dates and potential production sessions. And, it's a lot of information to provide, especially, 3 years worth. That's really difficult because no one really plans that long in advance. But I had to provide that information the first two, whereas my third O1, I found out that I could apply a different way, and all I needed to have was 3 contracts, essentially, stating that I had big production work in the US. And so I'm signed to a record label, so that was one of my contracts. I'm signed to a publishing label, that was my second one. And then I had a production job that was coming up, and that was my third one. And that's all I needed to give them. I didn't need to provide 3 years worth of dates and stuff like that. And honestly, I'm a little bit confused as to why I didn't know this sooner. But I don't know if it's a new thing, but they approved it all, and that was a different way of applying than previously. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I don't actually really know the answer.
So let's go back to the US, and tell me please, you've chosen Los Angeles for living and working, and why? What was the reason for that? You said it was your dream.
Yeah, I had visited Los Angeles as a kid. My family moved to the US for 1 year, and I just remember really liking it and it being nice weather. But as I grew up and I started performing music, and especially in Australia, everyone in the music industry, or a lot of people, talk about Los Angeles as the mecca of songwriting and the hub of the world for music, which it is. I would definitely say it is. I think, a lot of the world's best producers and songwriters and, creative people are based out of Los Angeles. And one thing I've learned is to go and be in the environment where, you want to be successful. And so, that was the main reason. I initially actually moved to Nashville because my manager since moved to Nashville. And so when I moved to the US 6 years ago, I went there first to kind of get settled and figure out all the administrative stuff. But I was only there for 3 months, and then my manager was like, yeah, if you're moving country for music, you really should be in Los Angeles. So he gave me a car and sent me across the US, and which was a huge blessing. And so I drove across and decided on LA, and it changed my life completely. And just by being there, surrounded by people in the same industry doing the same kind of work, is opens up millions of opportunities that I wouldn't have had I stayed in Australia. You said that you're very impressed by the LA in general. So could you please highlight the general pros and cons of living in the US, and maybe what surprised you the most in this country, moving from Australia? For me, coming from Australia, I think Australia is fairly similar to the US in a lot of aspects. But LA specifically, maybe I'll start with the cons. It's a very big city, way bigger than I ever thought it could be before I moved there. When I first moved there, I moved to Venice, which is on the beach. And a lot of studio sessions and songwriting sessions are kind of central in Hollywood or West Hollywood or even Silver Lake, which is more east. So getting around, the public transport is terrible in Los Angeles. It's really difficult. It's not like any European city where you can just, hop on a bus or a train and you're there. So that was out of the question. So everyone drives, and there's just so many people there that driving in traffic. I mean, that's such a cliche, but it's so true. Being in traffic is, it would take me hours sometimes to get to the studio, and then it would, depending on when I leave, if I left in peak hour, sometimes it would take another hour and a half to get home. So that really bothers me. And I do spend a lot of time in Europe and in Germany and Berlin specifically. And getting around here is so easy. There's train stations everywhere. You hop on, 20, 30 minutes later, you're where you need to be. So that's definitely a con in LA, is the infrastructure is not there for public transport. America in general, I mean, everyone knows this, but there's no free healthcare. The kind of welfare systems are different from, say, Australia, where I'm from, or even European countries. And that's kind of difficult to adjust to, like doctors' bills are really expensive, and anything medical is just really difficult if you don't have insurance. And I can't get insurance because I'm not a citizen. And I think there are types of insurance I could get, but I found out that I was able to use travel insurance, which is an Australian thing. So that sometimes helps me. That's definitely a con. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's too many other cons that I can think of off the top of my head. It's mainly just kind of the infrastructure, getting around, the healthcare. America also feels very divided sometimes. It's a very strong political sense in the media and everywhere, and it's just a big topic all the time. So sometimes that gets a little bit much. However, the pros about living there are definitely the weather. It's beautiful pretty much year round, nice and sunny. The people I've met, fantastic people. I've built, some really fantastic friendships, and the opportunity to meet people and work with people that are much better than I am at music, and so I can learn from them and be surrounded by that. I think for any kind of success, that's a really big positive thing, if you can be surrounded by people that are doing the same thing as you. So yeah, I think they're my top 3 pros and cons.
Thank you. And you said, moving back to Australia, you said that you have played in a band right there. And could you please share a little bit more of your background of getting no one visa 6 years ago? What was that like? How did you find an employer? Maybe why did this manager invite you to the US, and general background?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the small nutshell version was my old band we had paid to be on the front page of an old music website called Pure Volume, and my manager found us from that advertisement, contacted me and was like, "Hey, I like your band, what have you got going on?" And eventually, after a few months of chatting, he decided to sign us and start working with us. And then when my band broke up, and I was pursuing more production and my own project, and my own artistry, I was kind of, I didn't even know about the own design. I mean, it felt so difficult for me to just, how do I get to America? I have no idea. And so through working with him, I was making these trips, and he was helping set up meetings with other songwriters and producers. And I ended up working with someone who then introduced me to someone in the studio across from the one I was in. And it turns out this guy in there was Australian, and he had been living here on his third O1 at this time. And so I just started chatting to him, and he actually put me in contact with his lawyer and was like, "Yeah, there's a visa you can get if you're doing music." And that was the first I'd ever heard of it. And I was like, "Oh my God, maybe that's for me." And at the time I had signed this publishing deal. And so the publishing deal for me was, they act as my on that O1. And I spoke with this lawyer, and we went through the steps, and I basically found out that in order to get the visa, I had to have a sponsor, which was the publishing deal. I had to have testimonials, and through making these trips back and forth for the past year or so, I had met some great people that were willing to vouch for me, because you need to have people in kind of higher up levels in the music industry basically say that, yes, he can come here and, you know, he's legit. So that was really helpful. I made some connections that were willing to say that. And the last piece was press. I needed to have 12 to 15 press articles that had my name mentioned on it. And luckily, because I had been doing music in the band for so long, I had all these articles from Australia and a few from America that had my name on it. And that was enough to get me my visa. And that's kind of the process it took, basically. And that was probably a year-long process, from initially talking to a lawyer, collecting everything over the next, 6 months, and then applying. And then I didn't pay the expedite fee the first time, so I ended up waiting, I think, 5 months or something like that. So yeah, that's my kind of the nutshell story.
So the last question that I have for you, so like what you've mentioned already, like the career opportunities, and like the Los Angeles is a city of opportunities. So what like exact opportunities are there for you? And what particularly are you doing in the US right now?
Yeah, as I said before, there's just so many people in the music industry there, and the music industry is so big in the US. So, I mean, specifically, I met a few people on my first week there, actually, just from mutual friends I had made, and I ended up making friends with someone at a record label, and that record label ended up, he and I became friends, and he worked for the label, and so he actually, found out I was a singer, found out I was a producer, and so he just wanted to help out of the kindness of his heart, and so he connected me with a bunch of people, and I ended up singing on a bunch of other producers' songs, and then I started to get my name out there a little bit, and then that helped, get me into different rooms with bigger and better songwriters, and eventually I had kind of this trajectory, this pathway of being a vocalist and a producer. And through doing that, you meet people that then work with someone else that then they think of you, oh, Drew might be great for this project, so they call me up, and then I'm involved with something that is new and exciting, and it really just works like a spider web, at least in my experience. And that's been the most amazing thing, is to where I am now, which is much further on in my career than I was when I moved here. I can put it down to really just meeting people and getting connected. And now I have opportunities, like I produce music for like major network TV shows. I've signed a record deal, and I'm about to go on a full US tour. And these things have all happened from me being there and just meeting the right people that like my music and like what I'm doing, and then connects me with other people that then just builds upon. So it's a really beautiful thing, actually.
Wow, thank you. So if you are interested in Drew's music, you can check out his YouTube channel. It will be linked in the description of this video. And I think this is an interesting experience. Thank you very much for sharing with us.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Have a great day, and goodbye.
Thank you.